There's probably no better time to do this and just express what's on my mind. You guys might be getting acquainted with this page, or maybe you've been following my journey all along. And today I'm going to teach you guys some stuff, some lessons that have kind of been weighing on me to teach. I actually created these like a couple of weeks ago, but funny enough how the timing works with the media and the press, this perfectly aligns. For some reason, I always seem to align with current events, not necessarily in a Nostradamus kind of way, but literally just seems to play out that way. But one of the things that I had to really, really focus on and hone in on is just the absolute focus of titles. I see a lot of people fighting, scrimmaging, and doing all types in order to attain particular titles, like who has the highest net worth, who's the richest rapper, who's the richest tech bro, or whatever. And in the last year, people have been fighting for these titles, and it's oddly started to happen when I had to quantify my wealth, and never happened really too much before. People, of course, were always saying, "Oh, this person's a billionaire, this person's a billionaire," and put quite an emphasis on it before, but never such a deliberate focus on being the most wealthiest artist or being the top trillionaire. None of that ever really existed before until I reached this height and I reached this place that I was in. So I just always find it ironic. I like to learn about these things and keep an eye on it and be aware of it and kind of see where we're going in the world with this energy and these decisions, and where will this thought process and this thinking take us as a society. So I'm always keeping an open mind to that, and really, really and truly, it's an interesting place to be. It's an interesting place to be, in a place where to attain such wealth, to attain such a place, and to others it would be grandiose, if they don't quite understand what it is. But to those that understand, they understand the gravity of this situation and how deep it actually gets and how serious this really is. I say all that to say the reason why in this system and in this place you are learning from me about this particular topic and this particular time and space is because the world needs to know that there is an ethical way to reach wealth. I never knew until last year that there is a society that we live within that is sick, depraved, and more or less suffering because it's lost touch. Maybe we lost touch with amnesia, and some just deliberately decided to go the other way. But as a society, we forgot where true wealth and origin of wealth comes from. And because of that, we invest in wars and hatred and all the most toxic and detrimental policies and frameworks. And the same people keep recycling the same tactics over 50 to 60, 40 years. And as a society, we keep repeating the same patterns and pain over and over again. And it's not that we can't stop. It's not that we can't stop extracting the planet. It's that we're also detached from our value and who we are and what we're worth, that we almost think that there's no other way and we can't do anything, but we absolutely can. And this is why I'm teaching you guys about this. Yes, we absolutely can create change, and we can understand where wealth starts from. What is the source, the origin point? These laws actually do really work in our favor when we do actually work with the laws. There are some laws that absolutely work in our favor. There are some laws that are feudal and dogmatic and really don't serve anybody. And they're dormant and they've been lasting for hundreds of years. They serve no one. But then there's other laws that serve us and we forgot about them. We just don't pay any attention to them, or we've never had the vantage point of them. And here we are now, where we get to make the deliberate decision as humanity as to where we are going to focus and derive our wealth from. And that's important. And part of that journey, and part of what I'm understanding, part of what I'm learning is how to show you how we're going to get there. And to no longer make it so that these people that do not care about the planet and do not care about people and don't even understand how wealth operates are taking full advantage of us and making us think that it's not attainable. It's completely attainable. I attained what these people attained over and over and over and over again. Over and over again. And if I went back to the drawing board, I would attain more of what they have over and over again because I understand how the system works and where it comes from. Now that's the difference. And when you can be taught where it actually comes from and you stop to ask how the systems operate, who operates them, if anyone even operates them at all, when you can do that, then we unlock the system. I mention this quite often. In high school, I took a math class that was for the foundational basics. I had the opportunity, I did fast track. I was either going to do advanced math or they called this remedial math, and it was literally tax and business. So I took tax and business. And because of that, I have a foundation to understand how net worth actually works. And when I got a full understanding of it in that class, I took off. But I actually spent quite some time engaging with society and forgetting how it works until I got the chance to sit down after some quantifying of my own wealth. And it brought me to this place of full understanding and a place to where I get to teach. So here we are. What net worth truly is: unlocking the power of creative assets, understanding and leveraging your true wealth. Creative assets are real net worth. Everything that you create is intellectual property if it came from your heart, your mind, your soul, and was put down on either a piece of paper, it was sculpted, it was a song, it was any kind of creation, down to a recipe and a framework and an idea formalized. These are assets. They may be intangible assets, but it's what we do with those intangible assets and setting up the channels with those assets that make them real wealth. But every single thing has a base value to begin with. When you're creative and you make anything, most common thing that you will get is people telling you little bits and pieces of how it works. Nobody's going to give you the full game. If they gave you the game, chances are they can't take advantage of you. And most people are trying to take advantage of you in the industry. But a common thing that I was always told was once I figure out how assets work and how intellectual property works, how net worth works, and how intangibles and tangible work, the whole game will unlock for me. And that's why I want to teach you guys all about it, because there is no reason why you shouldn't know how to leverage your net worth too. In the industry, because I was always very organized and I always stockpiled my assets, I had books, I had music, I also had other artists, I had art, I had so much stuff that I was stockpiling and just adding and adding and adding away. There was many professionals that were always telling me how excited they were once I figured out how these mechanics actually worked. Because if I could figure it out, that meant I was able to figure it out with full ownership, full leverage, something that isn't regularly done. Understanding net worth beyond money. Net worth is defined as your total assets minus your total liabilities, not your income, salary, or bank balance. It is a true snapshot of your overall financial position at any given moment, capturing everything you own and everything you owe. True net worth includes both tangible assets, cash, property, investment, and intangible assets, intellectual property, creative works, brand equity, a complete picture of your real wealth. And anyone tells you any different, they're trying to keep you down. Imagine me, I had all these assets. I was so organized. I had provenance. I kept Excel sheets and track records and ledgers of everything, of my music, of all of my assets. I always kept track of my paintings. I always kept track of my sales. But the thing was, because I had the wrong type of accounting going on from the wrong type of accountant and no CPA to show me how the way goes, I wasn't properly quantifying all of my assets. So when I finally had to sit down and do it, it changed everything. How to leverage your creative assets, value your assets, know what you own, value your creative assets yourself without overpaying external experts. Use as collateral. Use creative assets as collateral to acquire more assets, capital, or strategic opportunities. Structure ownership. Structure ownership properly to maintain full control and avoid unwanted intermediaries. Strategic underwriting. Deploy external underwriting only when you need outside validation or additional leverage. Net worth includes intangible creative assets as real wealth. Your creative inventory is compounding wealth, waiting to be structured. Mastering valuation, collateralization, ownership, and underwriting unlocks unstoppable leverage. Begin tracking and valuing your creative assets today. Explore structuring your portfolio for maximum leverage to activate your creative wealth. Activate your true net worth and own your creative future. Beautifully done. And thank you for this, for listening in. And the next, what evaluation is and how it impacts business decisions. Uncovering the hidden challenges in industry practices. What is evaluation? Evaluation or valuation is the process of determining the economic value of assets, companies, or investments. It provides a structured, objective measure of worth in financial contexts. Valuation is critical for investment decisions, mergers and acquisitions, business financing, and ongoing asset management, forming the backbone of sound financial strategy. Without accurate evaluation, businesses risk mispricing assets, making poor investment choices, or entering unfavorable deals that undermine long term financial health. Part of bringing you guys along for this journey is to actually teach you guys how it works and also the risks and the exploitation that I was met with. Exploitation risk by evaluators. Evaluators may inflate fees unjustifiably or produce biased valuations that favor their own interests over the client's true asset worth. Many evaluators use opaque methodologies and apply pressure tactics, leaving clients unable to question or verify the valuation process. Most clients lack deep valuation expertise, making them easy targets for misleading assessments and unfavorable financial outcomes. It's very, very important to be careful in the realm of speculation when it comes down to these things. An evaluator is an evaluator, it's one opinion. There are many times and many people that you will meet to evaluate one asset. And sometimes it's going to be either an internal valuation and a couple of external valuations to go with it. But that's just how the process is and how it should be done properly. It's really important to remember if somebody goes ahead and evaluates your hot dog stand at $5 and you know that the base value of it is at least $2,000, what's going to happen when you go to the bank or you have clients and that person can get away with the numbers that they just put on you? You got to always start with internal valuation. Over 60% of mid to large companies perform internal valuation cycles annually, using these assessments to guide strategic decisions and maintain business health. Internal valuations support strategic decisions and risk management across all business units. Companies regularly assess asset value and business health to stay competitive and financially sound. We do audits not just for cash flow, but to check the base value, to check the foundational value, the floor to ceiling value. We do all of those steps within internal valuation because, again, as intellectual property, these are some pretty stable numbers. It's not as speculative as what would happen if you were in shareholding or stock market or anything like that. It's a little bit more stable. Internal valuations covers broad company assets across the entire organization, providing a comprehensive picture of overall business value and financial health. Supports strategic planning, risk management, and long term decision making by regularly assessing the value of all company holdings. Underwriting focuses on targeted asset risk assessment, evaluating specific assets in depth before financing or sale to determine their precise risk profile. Enables companies to secure loans or attract investment for targeted asset pools by providing lenders and investors with validated risk assessments. How valuation actually works. You have to identify your assets, you have to choose the methodology, apply the numbers, and document and validate. So we start with cataloging everything of value: IP, real estate, equipment, contracts, royalties, brand equity. That is your inventory, not theirs to define. Income approach is a way to count it. So future cash flows, market approach, comparable sales, or asset based approach. Each serves different asset types. Apply the numbers, run calculations using your own financials. Discount rates, multipliers, and projections are applied to arrive at fair market value. Produce a formal report. This can be done internally, then selectively verified by an underwriter when you need external validation for a specific pool. A powerful example of how valuation works is art valuation, a real world example. How art valuation works. An art house assembles a panel of deemed experts on a particular artist. They review provenance, technique, and market history. Then they issue a valuation. Shows like Figure Fortune illustrate the process. Experts authenticate and price work based on their collective judgment. It's still one opinion. No matter how credentialed the panel, that valuation is one opinion, not an absolute truth. A different panel could arrive at a completely different number. The authority comes from consensus among a small group, not objective measurement. Why this matters for you. If art valuation is just expert opinion, so is business valuation. You don't have to accept one evaluator's number as gospel. You can build your own internal valuation, then use an underwriter to validate specific assets as needed on your terms. Pre value. Your work has value upon creation. Base value at creation. Everything you create has value the moment it exists, before any sale, before any market validates it. As the creative owner, the value is yours from the point of creation. You don't need permission or an external evaluator to establish that worth. Provenance is power. Provenance, the documented history of ownership and origin, is what anchors your base value. The moment you create something and document it, you establish a chain of ownership that compounds over time. This is your proof of value independent of any third party, the game changer. Understanding pre value changes everything. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you what your work is worth. Every song, every design, every piece of IP has base value upon creation, and that value belongs to you, not to an evaluator who shows up after the fact. Floors and ceilings, know your valuation boundaries. The floor. Your floor is the minimum value of your asset, the lowest it should ever be priced. This is your base, the cost of creation, the IP ownership, the provenance. No one should ever value your work below the line. If an evaluator comes in under your floor, they're trying to take from you the ceiling. Your ceiling is the maximum realistic value based on market demand, comparable sales, and strategic positioning. Knowing your ceiling means you never undersell. It also protects you from over leveraging. You stay grounded in what the market can actually bear. Why this matters: when you know your floor and ceiling, you control the negotiation. You set the range, not the evaluator. Anyone who tries to price you outside your boundaries is either uninformed or predatory. This is how you protect your wealth as a creator. You have evaluators that can undervalue your assets cheaply just so that they can sell you to their affiliated buyers. And then you have middlemen and false experts that overcomplicate things. These can be brokers, consultants, managers, and advisors who just they overcomplicate the process just so that you are confused and that they can stay in the power seat. Those that can insert themselves into your paperwork. This is the most dangerous type. They quietly insert themselves into your contracts and agreements and ownership structures, and investors as well. Investors can be some of the most predatory ones. For investors, we have ones that can offer you capital for equity in what you've built, and they were never there in the beginning, but they're there to take a piece of ownership. So we have quite a few people that can leverage and take advantage of your assets. The lesson: you don't need to pay millions to an evaluator or advisors to figure out what kind of wealth you actually have. You can actually do it internally. And whenever you have to do an asset pool, that is when you have an underwriter with whatever institution you're working with validate the asset. As a creator, it's imperative that you understand valuation and internal valuation and understand just the basic fundamentals of it instead of being caught up in fees with particular experts and deeming every single person an expert. You can scrutinize them, you can do your own numbers, and you can have full control over these things. And you got to just leverage strategically. I won't sit here and be chastised about saying, oh, well, you can do an internal valuation and then the bank has to give you the money that you say. That's just not how it works. And the government can't give you the amount that you say either. It is an underwriter that you negotiate with and you sit with, but you have these systems built up in your pitch decks, in your proposals, your white papers, and everything, so that you have the assets and provenance in the first place, and so that you can negotiate. And that is the most important thing when it comes down to negotiations, and to understand what your floor and ceiling is. If you have any questions, hit it up in the comments, like, share, hype, do whatever you guys need to do to get this information out there for the whole world to see. Because we can all raise our net worths as high as we need to go is something that we see a lot of people in the media, celebrities or whomever, leveraging tech bros or whatever, leveraging this assets and net worth leverage, and we're not fully utilizing it ourselves in the public, and we do not understand it is something that we can all actually utilize. Internal valuation is something that all these corporations do, and it is something that we can utilize to at least have a base value for our net worth, and that way we can step forward and negotiate properly with the things that we create and that we build.